welcome to the deep dive. Today, we're plunging into a really powerful and, let's be honest, pretty perplexing passage from Ezekiel 24.1527.
Absolutely. It's one that raises a lot of questions.
We've got our sources lined up here, and we're aiming to understand why this, well, almost unthinkable command from God leads not just to duty, but to this profound act of trust.
Exactly. Our mission really is to unpack the surprising nature of divine love that's kind of hidden within this ancient text.
Yeah, because on the surface, it can seem anything but loving.
Right. The core insight we're digging into is this idea that obedience isn't about fear. It's about trust in God's love and purpose, even when things seem impossibly bleak.
Okay, so let's dive right in. The scene opens, and God basically drops a bombshell on the prophet Ezekiel.
He does. The text says, "Son of man, behold, I am about to take the delight of your eyes away from you at a stroke."
And our sources are clear. This isn't vague. It's a direct, chilling reference to his wife. God is telling him his beloved wife is about to die. Suddenly.
Imagine hearing that directly. But then it gets even stranger, right? Because God immediately follows up with instructions.
Yes. Explicit commands not to mourn, which is just counterintuitive.
Totally. He's told, don't weep, don't shed tears, don't even sigh out loud. Keep your turban on, keep your shoes on your feet, things you'd normally remove in mourning.
Don't cover your lower face, which was a mourning custom, and don't eat the bread of men, the food people brought to comfort mourners.
Exactly. Every single instruction goes against the expected, culturally ingrained rituals of grief at that time.
And Ezekiel's reaction, it's almost breathtaking in its speed.
It is. The text says, "So I spoke to the people in the morning, and at evening my wife died." Just like God said.
And on the next morning, I did as I was commanded. No argument, no delay, just immediate, stark obedience.
Now, the immediate reaction, I think, for many of us, is to assume this comes from fear, sheer terror of disobeying God.
Or maybe just blind duty, like God said it, I do it, no questions asked.
Right. But the scholarship, the context of Ezekiel's entire ministry, suggests something deeper is going on. It wasn't primarily fear-driven.
Okay, so what was it then?
It seems rooted in his established relationship with God and his understanding, perhaps hard-won, of God's deep covenantal love for Israel, even when delivering hard messages.
So he trusted God's character even when the command itself felt impossible.
Precisely. He could somehow frame this immense personal tragedy, the loss of his wife, within that larger picture of God's love and purpose. That's the key. It's trust, not just rule-following. Trust that God's love was bigger than his own pain.
That's a huge leap of faith.
Immense. And, of course, the people watching him are completely baffled. They see him acting this way after his wife dies.
And they ask him straight up, right, will you not tell us what these things mean for us, that you are acting thus? Like, what on earth are you doing?
Yeah, they recognize this isn't normal grief. It's deliberate. It's symbolic. They know it must mean something for them.
So what does it mean? God explains it pretty directly.
He does. God reveals that Ezekiel himself, in his suppressed grief, is a living, breathing sign for the house of Israel, the exiles in Babylon.
His personal tragedy becomes a public prophecy.
Exactly. The parallel is laid out starkly. Just as Ezekiel lost the delight of his eyes, his wife.
Israel was about to lose the delight of their eyes and their soul's desire.
Which was?
The temple in Jerusalem, the symbol of their nation, their connection to God, the pride of their power, and not just the building.
No, also their sons and daughters who were still in Judah and would be killed in the final siege. It's a devastating parallel loss.
And the command not to mourn, that applies to them too.
Yes, but with a twist. They also would be, in a sense, forbidden from typical mourning. God says they will instead rot away in your iniquities and groan to one another.
Rot away in your iniquities. That sounds incredibly harsh. What does that actually signify?
It's this image of internal decay rather than outward ritual. Their grief wouldn't be the shared sorrow for a national tragedy as much as the isolating internal agony of realizing their own sin, their own part in bringing about this judgment.
So the inability to mourn publicly forces them to confront the reason for the destruction.
That seems to be the point. It's a grief turned inward, gnawing at them because of their unfaithfulness. It's less about communal loss and more about personal culpability.
But you framed this earlier as potentially an act of love, a warning. How does rotting away fit with love? That still feels like judgment, pure and simple.
Well, it is judgment, absolutely. But the timing is key. This prophecy comes before the final destruction. It's a last, incredibly vivid warning.
Like a final wake-up call.
Exactly. It's a severe mercy, perhaps. By using his prophet in such a profoundly painful way, God is showing the depth of the coming loss, and maybe, just maybe, trying to shock them into repentance before it's utterly too late.
So the harshness itself is part of the desperate plea.
I think so. It demonstrates God hasn't just walked away silently. He's still communicating, still engaging, even through this painful, symbolic act. Ezekiel's obedience makes his suffering a signpost, pointing to God's sovereignty and the consequences of turning away, ultimately so they would know that I am the Lord.
So wrapping this up, what does this incredibly intense story from Ezekiel mean for you listening today?
Well, Ezekiel's trust, right in the middle of unimaginable pain and this bizarre command, it became this powerful sign. It pointed beyond his own suffering to God's larger plans, and paradoxically, his love.
It reminds us that even in the darkest, most confusing times, our response matters. It can point towards something bigger.
Absolutely. His life became a testimony. And it pushes us to ask, doesn't it? How might our own responses to hardship, if they come from trust, not just fear or anger, how might they serve as signposts for others?
Could they point people towards a God who, as the text suggests, is always working towards his purposes, even when it's completely hidden from our view?
It's a challenging thought. Can our faith, especially when it costs us something, become that kind of beacon for someone else?
Something definitely worth carrying with you. Could your response in difficulty actually point others towards hope, towards something greater? A profound question to end on.